time, I'd like to call the Village of Midlothian Board meeting for April 8th, 2015 to order. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis. Here. Trustee Pillowy. Here. Trustee Kreis.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Moskal.
Here.
Trustee Schiavone.
Here.
Mayor Ryback.
Here.
You have quorum.
Please stand for the pledge, and after the pledge, remain standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, if there's anybody from any of the municipal commissions or local organizations in attendance, if you'd like to stand, say your name, we'd like to welcome you to the meeting.
Ruth Casina, Veterans Forum Boards, and Midlothian American Legion.
George Snowden, Veterans Committee, Midlothian VFW 2580, American Legion 691.
Lori Taylor, Historical Chamber Board of Directors, and VFW Auxiliary.
Chuck Hillier, Emergency Management.
Carl, I have the Beautification Committee and Trustee Elect.
Jean Bartecki, CPC, and Neighborhood Watch.
Thank you. Welcome everybody this evening. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to public comment. If you'd like to address the board, now is your time.
Kathy Hageley. I have some handouts for everybody. First of all, with regards to Natalie Creek, at the April 1st committee meeting, Helen referenced the cleanup work that was done on Colmar Avenue along the creek on Sunday, March 29th. In that area, the creek runs along the east side of the street, and on the east side of the creek there are two vacant lots, and the creek appears to run along the west edge of both of those lots. And at first glance, it appears that those lots appear to be the adjacent backyards of two residences on Kilbourne. However, they are not. These lots, it appears that these lots may be divided from the Kilbourne properties by the utility wires that cross over all the backyards between Kilbourne and Colmar. It's kind of hard to see. You have to kind of walk through all the brush and the trees to figure that out. The first set of documents I'm passing out to you are the documents that were printed off of the Cook County website. Pursuant to the Cook County clerk, the real estate taxes for these two lots from 1993 to 2012 were delinquent and they were sold at a tax scavenger sale. So not sure how we would be able to get a hold of those lots to use as part of the land bank or even as part of our flooding project with water reclamation. And the tax bills are being mailed to a residence at 14736 Kilbourne, but I will continue to investigate other lots along Natalie Creek as well. One question I do have is that if residential and commercial property owners can be ticketed for weeds and unkept yards and properties, then can the owners of these vacant lots also be ticketed for not maintaining the vacant lots? And if not, then can the village pass an ordinance requiring owners of vacant property to keep the property cleaned and maintained? Next item is with regards to record keeping. I was checking on the village website for a couple of past meeting records and discovered that the archives for meeting minutes needs to be updated. In the archive for village board meeting minutes, the last minutes posted is from January 14th, 2015. The last village committee meeting minutes were posted dated December 8th, 2014. So subsequent meeting minutes need to be posted. The February 11th and February 18th, 2015 meetings that are listed as special board meetings, they're listed as special board meetings under the special board meeting archive and not as regular board meetings. And not sure why they would be considered special meetings and not board meetings, unless they were just, accidentally put in the wrong archive. That I don't know. Also, the special village board meeting archive only includes 3 meeting minutes, and those were all held in 2015. And the special board meeting minutes that were all for all the special board meetings that were held in 2014 are not in the archive anymore. They've been deleted for some reason. Also, zoning board agendas and zoning board meeting minutes are also not in the archive. So I don't know if it's a glitch, but if somebody could look at that. With regards to the municipal code, I've been reading the municipal code as part of the Community Rating Service Application Project. Title 12 of the municipal code is entitled Subdivisions. Chapter 1 is named Subdivision Regulations. Chapter 2 is named Flooding and Stormwater. Since the flooding and stormwater ordinances and rules need to apply to all properties in the village and not just to subdivisions, should this Chapter 2 be reassigned under its own separate title? This reassignment will enable the residents and public at large to find Midlothian's flooding and stormwater ordinances more easily. In Title 12, Chapter 2, Article A, Paragraph 4 and 5 refer to permit procedures and permit materials, respectively. Neither of these paragraphs is cross-referenced with the permit requirements set forth in Title 4.3 and vice versa. Both Title 4.3 and Title 12, Chapter 2, A, 4, and 5 should be updated to cross-reference each other. At the March 25th board meeting, during Trustee Schiavone's report, there was discussion regarding the redevelopment of the Barrett building. I'm not sure if this building is located in the downtown flood zone, but if it is, the building owner needs to be made aware of Title 12.2 requirements. And then there was further discussion with regards to the owner's potential request for a trench foundation. It was beyond the public comments, so I couldn't really raise my hand, but I just want to take this opportunity to say that that's a pretty bad idea. And I hope that the owner doesn't come forward and ask for that, especially since the purpose of this building is going to be a multi-story storage facility with concrete floors. Trench foundation won't hold that weight. Also, with regards to the zoning board meeting on March 30th, I attended that meeting, and the zoning board approved the rezoning of the home on Cicero and 149th Street from commercial back to residential, subject to board approval. The family that lives there happens to be sitting right here behind me. However, I don't see on tonight's agenda under the trustee's business or president's business that this item is up for voter discussion. This family has patiently waited long enough for the village to revise the zoning so that they can make much needed improvements to their home. This item of business needs to be added to tonight's agenda and voted on so this family can move forward with their lives. With regards to the community rating system application project, again, Title 12.2, Flooding and Stormwater, was added to the village code via ordinance 1671 on August 13, 2008. Section B11 reads as follows: make federally subsidized flood insurance available for property in the village by fulfilling the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. Now again, this was passed by the village board on August 13, 2008. Okay. Then Resolution 14-1126-A was recently passed on November 26, 2014, whereby the village adopted the Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, which was originally dated 9/10/14, revised 11/6/14. And just for historical note, for anybody who's not aware, Cook County developed this hazard mitigation plan as a result of the April 2013 FEMA flood disaster, because most Cook County municipalities, including Midlothian, did not have a hazard mitigation flood plan, which in part is required in order to qualify for FEMA disaster funding, and it's also required as part of the CRS application process. This hazardous mitigation plan should be adopted into the village code as part of the flooding and stormwater outlined in Title 12. Also, Midlothian Public Works completed the Village of Midlothian Annex document, which is part of that overall Cook County plan. And I passed out some tables to you that I pulled off of that plan. Table 1.3 lists the village engineer and public works superintendent and public works department as the administrative technical resources to administer the hazard mitigation plan. Table 1.4, titled Flood Insurance Program Compliance, lists the building department as responsible for floodplain management, the building commissioner, which such position right now doesn't exist, we call it something else, as the floodplain administrator, and the village engineer is the certified floodplain manager. Table 1.6 provides a natural hazard history event, which documents 22 floods in 32 years. between June of 1981 and April of 2013. The Cook County Hazard Mitigation Plan is dated 9/14 and revised in November of 2014, and I'm not sure why the village didn't update the annex to include the 9 floods that occurred in the spring and summer of 2014 that started on Mother's Day. Of the 22 documented floods over 32 years, 8 of those floods are designated as FEMA disasters with an assigned FEMA disaster number. And since the adoption of Title 12-2 in August of 2008, which was 7 years ago, Midlothian suffered 7 documented floods, 3 of which were FEMA disasters, and then those additional 9 floods that occurred last spring and summer, which are not documented on the annex form. Okay. Had the village followed its own ordinance that clearly states in paragraph 11 that I read, by fulfilling the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program, as stated in Title 12, and applied for CRS status back in 2008, then the village would have qualified for FEMA disaster funds for the 3 FEMA disasters that occurred since 2008, and the property owners who are required to have flood insurance would have qualified for premium discounts. Since April of 2013, Midlothian has provided the mayor and the village board with volumes of flood history and documentation as well as technical data, and is the leading force in getting federal, state, county, and nonprofit groups to come to Midlothian to begin the flood mitigation project that is currently underway by MWRD and the Army Corps of Engineers. And for over 18 months, we've been asking the mayor and the board's support and funding to start the CRS application process. Based on the technical requirements set forth in the village code and the hazard mitigation plan, Midlothian needs to hire a technically trained individual for the role of building department superintendent or building commissioner, whatever the title may be. There is no reason that this hiring process could not be completed in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and therefore no reason to temporarily assign an interim building superintendent, which currently the individual does not have the technical qualifications for the position. Trustee Killelly and I are in the process of gathering all the required CRS application documentation that's available to us through the village code, through public works logs, and so forth. And we are drafting the outlines for policies and procedures and other documentation for various application elements. One of those elements is a question that says, does Midlothian have a system for getting notified when flooding is expected? And the answer to that question would be we have 2 systems. First system is an iPhone app that's available to receive notification via your cell phone when the USGS gauge at 149th and Kilbourne recognizes floodwater level. And the second system would be the code red alerts. I'm asking the mayor and the board to dedicate funds for Robinson Engineering to assist with the oversight of the CRS application process and review our work as we proceed. Please note, until the village is in compliance with the community rating system, all the residents who are required to maintain flood insurance will never qualify for a premium discount, and the village will never qualify to receive FEMA disaster funds, because FEMA is not going to help any municipality that is not actively trying to help itself. So that's all I have to say. But I do also want to thank Trustee Schiavone and recognize him for his years of service in Midlothian, not only as the police chief, but also as a trustee for all these years, and I want to congratulate the others that were voted in yesterday.
I just want to say one thing about, she brought up the Prado family that's in that area where we're talking about rezoning. I know I talked to you Monday about
Right.
if you didn't get stuff from the,
I still haven't
Zoning board
gotten
yet.
minutes or a recommendation from the zoning board.
I just talked to their family just before the meeting, and they said they couldn't even come and get a fence permit. They were kind of talked rudely to them by the building department inspector, and they can't even get a fence permit. I'm not sure why that would be. Why do they get a fence permit? Is there something for an offense?
I have not heard that.
I did just, he was talking before the
Yeah,
meeting. so
I
we
haven't
can
heard
look
that
at
either. I can look into that.
I don't think a fence would be prohibited from being put.
It shouldn't be, no. I can look into that though. And hopefully they'll get them, and we can have a special meeting next week so we can vote to, because obviously it's being known that it's being recommended. They just have to tell the board that they're recommending it.
Right.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? Yes.
I'd like to ask if anyone can tell us how much money is in the fund for the new water tower? And if that's being kept accounted for separately?
I'm sorry, how much money?
Is in the fund for the new water tower?
I don't know that I have the exact number with me, but it's in the neighborhood of $1.6 million. And it's in an account at Carlinville National Bank.
And how much do we need to build a new water tower?
So we're-
Last I saw, I think, 1.7 something, right?
Yes, right around that amount. I don't have, I don't have a cost estimate with me, but I can dig it up and report back, but that sounds about right to me.
Anybody else? Okay.
Kind of backing up on what Kathy was saying. It's going to be 2 years next month that we've been coming here to pretty much every meeting possible. And we've been asking for highly qualified individuals to be interviewed and appointed to these positions, especially surrounding, the massive problems we have with the flooding, which the previous building has contributed significantly to the problems. Again, I'm going to use my house as an example. Maybe somebody could help me also understand. When a builder comes to the village, to the building department, as I understand it, he has a plan from his engineer, which is then brought here to our building department, which I thought a civil engineer had to look at, because they're looking at everything, including where does the water go in this plan? What's the topography, amongst a number of other things. So who is authorizing those things now? Like when the builder came, wanted to put 2 more houses on a block that already flooded, who did he go to? Who was the engineer? I mean, we're thinking we need highly qualified people here who can contribute to the knowledge that this floods and no, we shouldn't build something there. I still am flabbergasted at how that slipped through the cracks. And ironically, looking back at those maps, you have a block that a floodplain ran through the middle, going from east to west. People who bought houses on both sides of those, who after you incorporated more building, the floodplain was widened and those people got letters. It was as though you contributed along with everything else that was built upstream. And so our concern is that moving forward, a building department, a building inspector, a building supervisor, a building superintendent has to have really good experience and knowledge of the problems we face. So, our thought is that Joe and his department work their butts off. We don't think they make enough money. And we're sitting here week after week listening to all these new people coming in and getting raises who haven't even been here for very long. These guys have been waiting forever, and their job just gets harder every day because there's building decisions that aren't being, really looked at the way that they should. And there's just far too many things that are unforeseen without the proper people in position to help this move forward. We can't keep making mistakes that cause us to move backwards, making their jobs harder, while we're trying so hard to move forward. So could somebody answer that question? When a builder comes in here with their engineered plan, who here is the civil engineer that's okaying that?
You normally review our plans if it's for new build, don't you, Jeff?
Yes, provided the building department contacts me, I would review the civil site plan as applicable to the code. And then I believe the structural part of the building would be reviewed by an architect or some consultant in that matter. But any plans that I would directly review, I would review and provide comment.
So clearly, more than 25 years ago, when somebody came here with a plan and the Public Works already knew that flooded, why would the Public Works Department, or why would the Building Department even hand that plan? to the civil engineer. Doesn't make any sense. It really just doesn't. And that's why I think it's really important now, looking towards our building department, they have to really be looked at how they work at in conjunction with our public works, because they're working far too hard for something that probably could have been, a lot of it could have been avoided. And they deserve a raise, because summer's coming. You know, and that's another thing. We've been going to a lot of meetings. And Midlothian is known as the orphans. We've gone into meeting after meeting with no village representation. And why that's important, and I've said this a number of times, is we learn from the people who are there. Every village is represented by, you know, their engineers and their building department heads. And, you know, Joe has so much on his plate, and no, we are not friends. I'm not giving him a commercial opportunity here. But I can see that they are out working their butts off. He can't have time to be going to all these meetings and trying to do all that he's got to do around here. So again, more appointed people in these superintendent positions, or, you know, give these guys a raise, give them some assistance, give them something, but they need to be heavily, you know, representing Midlothian in these meetings, because we learn from every one of these meetings what other villages and other communities are doing to alleviate these problems. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
George Doden, looking at these bills that we put out here, looking at the Comcast phone bill for $2,800, and there's one phone on it for $1,214.68. Is that one person's phone or landline, or what is that? And the rest of the bills on there are like $300, $100, so it's like $1,200, that one phone.
He's got the itemized one, it shows by department.
This one right here.
I think it was, all right.
210-6372, Department 5.
If the one for 2,800 is probably.
Well, that's the total for all of them.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm talking about one individual phone bill for $1,200.
could that be the cell
I think
phone
that's the
bill?
internet.
No, the internet is on a separate bill. The internet is separate. That's $112.
I think, George, that's just a breakdown of that $2,800 bill by department.
Right? Why is
My
that?
guess is that $1,200 is likely the portion for the police department or administration.
For one phone bill? For one phone?
For all the phones
For all
within that
phones in the
department. So of those 4 lines or 5 lines, there's probably one there for public works, there's one for the fire department, one for administration, one for the police department. It's just the breakdown of the total. That's about our monthly payment to Comcast phone for all of the ID.
You got one on this for $867 also.
It's part of the 2892.
What? No, I understand. It's part of
It's just the allocation of the total bill.
I think he's asking why that one is so higher, much higher than that.
What is that? What does that include? That's so much higher than all the rest of them.
Would be based on, if it's, I don't have the bill in front of me, probably broken down by general ledger account,
Yeah.
it would be by department. So some departments have more telecommunication equipment than other departments. Like the police department and the fire department would have, their bills based on what they do would be higher than administration.
Is
Or
that part of the phone bill or part of the internet?
it's probably a
broken down?
combination. It's probably.
You got it broken down on here separately, it's internet and phone bill.
George, I don't have it in
and
front
cable.
of me, so we'd have to look at the general ledger accounts and then tie that back to the bills. Probably the person that could answer that would be Ryan Command.
And then one other bill, looking at reverse consulting, $4,000 for the month, April and May. I thought that was on a contract that was supposed to be limited.
$2,000 a month. For his services, it's $2,000 a month.
$4,000 for the 2 months now? Is that the new contract with them?
He turned in his April bill late, so, or he wanted his April to be paid, so he submitted his April and his May bill.
Is that the normal bill now every month, 2,000?
Yes.
Is that going to be, is that what the new contract is with them?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Yes.
Rita Sarni. I was just wondering how we were doing on the collections with the water bills, if it's sparked people to pay.
I didn't get an update this week, but I know we've done a number of shut-offs in the last 3 weeks. And when I spoke with the water clerk week before last, I think she said a little more than half of the shut-offs were in either the same day or the next day to pay.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Mary Helen Brinker, new 14736 Keeler. I was wondering if there's any update on the situation with Ricky Rockets.
We are currently working on a redevelopment agreement with them. Our lawyer's been working on it, working with them to come up with something that I can present to the board for approval. So yes, we're still working with them. Anybody else? If not, I will close the floor to public comment. Trustees, at this time, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of approval of minutes from March 4th from the committee meeting, March 4th from the executive session, the public hearing on March 11th, the board meeting minute on March 11th, the executive session from March 11th, the special meeting from March 13th, and the committee meeting from March 18th. I did give you revised copies at your places because Trustee Price had found a couple mistakes, so they are revised. She did, I believe, confirm that they are good, and also then the bill list.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Price,
Aye.
trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Tivoli,
Aye.
trustee Maskell,
Aye.
trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
Move on now to trustee business. Trustee Price?
On Friday, April 3rd, I attended the Calumet Stormwater Collaborative meeting, and I'm just going to kind of piggyback coincidentally on what Helen had to say. I think it's very important that Midlothian be represented at these meetings. At this collaborative, there were probably over 40 individuals there, and again, Army Corps is there, the Water Reclamation District is there, Harriet and her team from Center for Neighborhood Technology were there, and Dominic Tosi was there from Cook County Economic Development, and I, of course, went after him asking him for money again. I asked him for money to get our downtown, the money for the engineering study to get our downtown out of the floodplain, and I begged him for money for the community rating system. I literally begged him for money. Jason Berry presented for Blue Island and talked about they received $1.5 million in Illinois Green Infrastructure Funds. And I said, Jason, I put my hand up and I said, what did you do? Midlothian received $68,000, and I'm eternally grateful for that funding. But what did you do? And he said, you gotta be at the table. Somebody from your town has to be at everything. And so I would like to discuss this further with the board at a future committee meeting, because I just think it's really important that either an elected official or a staff member, department head, is at all of these meetings, because there's a lot of money out there. And just the networking and letting these agencies know that we care and that we're interested. It's very important. But it was a good meeting. Again, I asked for help, and I'm going to try to go to as many of these as I can, but it's really important that somebody from Midlothian be at all of them, because the people that can help us are there. And if we're not there, then shame on us. Update on Rain Ready, our first Rain Ready steering committee meeting will be next Thursday, April 16th at 9:30, and I actually reached out to Harriet today, and I copied you, Helen, for assistance in putting together our first agenda. I think we need her to help us get the ball rolling on this. think a lot of good can come out of Rain Ready. I know she's working with Walgreens, she's working with State Farm, they fund things. She's already made contact, and has asked us to make contact with, which I know you have done. And so I think we should have to continue these conversations, but I am looking forward to our first meeting next week. Right-way update, I had presented to the board their demands for economic incentives, and I responded to their developer that with the prefabricated building, the board would not entertain any of those economic developments. The board would entertain economic developments if they constructed a new building, and the developer replied that he didn't think that was enough to keep right-way in town. So I'm not sure what their future plans will be. But I did receive a phone call today from the realtor representing Brown's Chicken, and there could be something else. I think you know that realtor. And there could be another potential development there, and they might be looking for a Class 8. So I'll keep you posted as that information becomes available. Again, I want to push the Veterans Committee Parade on Saturday, June 27th. Please get the word out, and when you have information, it's on the website, and the forms are on the website. And I believe it's, and the Phase 2 report for the Rose property should be done by Friday, and the sale of that property is contingent on the US EPA Phase 2 report. So that's all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Schroeder?
Yes, the building department has no report, but I just wanted to address Kathy on that one matter regarding the Old Bay Hair building. I don't know if you missed that meeting or not. It's illegal for trench foundation.
Pardon me?
Trench foundations are illegal,
Okay.
so there's no issue there, and we've already discussed that at length, and they'll not be allowed to do such a
Very good, thank you.
thing. No other report.
Thank you. Trustee Gillis?
Yes, I want to let the board know that the hydrant replacement and removal program is moving along. We will have a classified ad that was submitted, and it will be in the paper tomorrow. It will run, and the bids will be, sealed bids will be open at 10 o'clock on April 24th to get the information pertaining to that program. Superintendent Sperry has informed me that he's working on finalizing the needed landscape contracts that was requested by him, which also includes the foreclosed homes. So we'll have information there hopefully by next board meeting. Fire department, I believe we do have an ordinance in place regarding the air cascade system. I would like to ask the board for approval to have Chief Hotwagner work on selling that if we can find a buyer, seeing that we have the ordinance in place already. That's what I was told?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, that cascade system sits at Station 2. It's not used anymore because we have upgraded our SCBA's. He has tried to find a local department that may use this, but basically it's outdated and antiquated. So he has some contacts that he would like to work on to get a price. So he's basically going to look for as much money as we can get for them. But I don't anticipate it's going to be much. So I guess I would like approval for that.
You don't even need it because it's already,
We had an ordinance
the ordinance
last
was
Wednesday.
last
Yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah, we did.
I missed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got that taken care of.
I also would like to make some movement on the e-waste container at Station 2, if we could possibly contact them to have the container removed. The chief has informed me that people are just dumping stuff outside. It's getting out of hand because there's so much stuff that's, some of it isn't even recyclable and stuff. So with that, what the chief will do, will put a notice on the windows so that people will have a secondary location that we will come up with so that they have a place they can drop that off other than just leaving it at our doorstep.
And you know what the second location is, could you please let us know? We'll get it on the website as well so people know they can't do it anymore.
Friday, the fire department ambulance, the 3 ambulances will be inspected by the state. as something that is needed before we can put the one that we just purchased in service, so that is happening Friday, and I'm sure that they'll pass with flying colors. I also am underaware that there has been some spot inspections done in neighboring communities by Illinois Department of Labor. I would like to make the recommendation that we do a voluntary inspection, basically open up our departments and have them come in and do this. I've actually experienced this when I was for the Park District. It is very user-friendly when you ask them to come instead of them just showing up. So I would like to see if the department heads feel that their departments are ready for an inspection, if we can have that put on the schedule.
I actually, after we had met with the Illinois Department of Labor after the Robbins fire, they gave me a packet, and I've been trying to contact this person, because I did check with the departments if they were ready to be inspected. I had the same theory as you. Invite them in, it's at no charge, and they'll tell you, and they won't fine you. They don't, how they put it is, they don't come in with their ticket book, they come in with an understanding, hey, get this taken care of. So I am trying to do that, and as soon as I can get a contact person to call me back, that'd be great.
I do have a contact person, so I will share them.
Thank you.
I also asked Chief Hotwagner to fill the board in. This morning, the district met, and they had a critique pertaining to the Robbins fire in December. So I've asked them to submit a report for us to review the information at our next committee meeting. So just want to let the board know about that. They finally did have that meeting. On the agenda, I have a request for the attendance of the chief and the deputy chiefs to attend the fire department instructors conference this year. For years, we have sent our command staff, not so much recently because of our financial position, but the chief informed me that what the two deputy chiefs and the chief would like to do would go down there for one day, not stay overnight. Basically, they're asking permission to bring the chief's squad to transport those and use fuel by the village. They're working on obtaining passes, which cost $50 to $75 each from one of our local sales distributors, Global or Pierce Manufacturer. So if that happens, what I'm asking is that they have permission to attend this conference. It basically provides the command staff with information pertaining to new equipment, new ways things are done, things that will help us enhance our department, not only for present time, but for the future time. The chief has reached out to Chief Bruce from Crestwood. He said he would make himself available on that day for any command staff that may be needed. We also have a full staff on duty that day, and the chief informed me that he would request that nobody take off that day, so we will have a complement of 5 full-time firefighters. And we do have one of our senior firefighters, Joe McClendon, on duty that day. So I think we're in good hands with our 3 staff members that are going to be leaving if the board approves this, but I would ask the board for approval for the chief and the 2 deputy chiefs to attend the conference on the 23rd.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Roll call.
That was,
April 23rd.
Trustee Liberty.
Gentlemen.
Killen Liberty.
Here.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Mosco.
Aye.
Trustee Shalani.
Aye.
And lastly, on a personal note, I'd like to publicly thank the fire department for the response to my house for my ambulance ride to the hospital a few weeks ago. I feel very lucky that the 3 medics that were there were actually very receptive of my emergency needs. And I would like to single out Steve Badger because being a paramedic in the past, I'm very familiar with the pros and cons when you're dealing with somebody that you know. it can be very uncomfortable. Steve made me feel fantastic, and thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Can I ask a quick question? The hydrant replacement that you mentioned, is that part of the $60,000 grant that we got from Midlothian years? Is that what that is you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes, ma'am. This past Saturday, the Community Policing Committee Neighborhood Watch Group held their first annual Easter egg scramble. And other than a slight hiccup with the start times for the age groups, I thought it went very well. Very well attended, lots of people were there. So many people to thank for everyone that donated, the eggs, the candy, the baskets, Public Works for setting up the screen and taking it down, the police department, fire department for showing up and donating, and everyone that volunteered to help out. It was just a great event. It was a great weather day, so it turned out great. A little windy, but and of course I'd like to thank Frank Pearson, Gene Bartecki, and Sandy Cortez is not here, but they put so much time and effort into grabbing all the eggs and stuffing all the eggs and laying all the eggs and organizing the event. It turned out really well, so I can't thank everyone enough. Thank you. Community Policing Committee met Thursday, and of course our next event is our golf outing, which is coming up Saturday night. We are in desperate need of golfers and hole sponsors. It's $50 for golfer and $50 for hole sponsor. There is only room for 10 foursomes, and I only have 2 foursomes locked in right now. So we have plenty of room at this point, but it does fill up quick. And I was asked by Chief Coffin to let the board know that our police department was awarded an in-car radar unit because of their exemplary work during the image grant, and I believe that cost of that unit is
around
$3,000. So good job, PD, and good job in getting that radar unit, which will come in handy later on. So, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Gilliland?
Community rating service work is ongoing. I think when we learned that Midlothian already had a hazard mitigation plan, that was a big hurdle to, and we'll make it go a lot faster, because that was a lot. And the hazard mitigation plan, as I see it, isn't quite up to snuff, but you know, we can get it in place for the first year and add to it and improve it over the years. But that should make this go much faster. So full speed ahead. Lucky to have 2 great people on the committee with me, Helen and Kathy, and we're going to get this done. So thank you.
Trustee Masko?
There's just 2 quick updates. I have not been able to confirm with trustees Kreis or Killey yet about a specific date, but I'm looking at either next Wednesday or Friday for a finance committee meeting, so maybe we can coordinate that and decide after the meeting tonight, so that will be next week. And then secondly, I sent trustee Killey and Helen some information this week about a parcel that we toured, and I am expecting to have a title search by the end of this week, so I'll share that with both of you when I have it as a potential location for detention.
Yeah, that's what, you know, it was a great work, because this is Helen and you have been scouting that, and this is a potential
Unpaid
thing.
taxes, we'll see
Yeah.
the best way
That's
to go
a
about
great
it.
coup.
That's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Koza?
Yes, it's been discussed, but I met with Joe on Tuesday to go over the fire hydrant specs. And as Joe mentioned, we'll open bids on that on the 24th, and hopefully that work can proceed in June, assuming the bids come in at a reasonable amount. I also distributed this afternoon a quiet zone memo. I know discussions have been brought up by residents ever so often about train owners. I provided the memo again just so everyone's informed as far as what our options are as far as quiet zones go. And since studying that, I had another thought that I don't know, maybe worth the board's consideration, but in that process, and I provided, based on our experience, what we think is going to be required. But what you can do to get the process going is request a diagnostic review session That's where every agency with a stake in this, railroads, Cook County's IDOT, because it's Pulaski and 147, Illinois Commerce Commission, all these agencies go out to the field and they evaluate each site and they tell you what they need to do. So if we were to have that meeting, we would know for sure what's needed to get that quiet zone. And then after that meeting, we can go back or find our cost estimates to provide the board an accurate number. It would be a little bit of effort on our part. We're probably talking $4,000 to $5,000 worth of time for engineering for that. But at least that would get us a definitive, this is what we got to do.
Sorry. It's just apropos that we're doing that right now.
So the estimate you gave was worst case scenario.
Well, it's just based on our experience of having done several of these in the area. This is what we think we're going to need based on what they told us on other situations. And I guess one of the options was, like one of the biggest problems we have is that pedestrian crossing pad on the north end of the platform that doesn't have a signal. It's just there and people can walk across, there's no warning lights or anything like that. In the past, they made communities put flashing beacons and all that kind of stuff, which is really expensive. We have the option of removing that if that's acceptable. That's a much cheaper option, but you lose that access. But I guess the point being is that we would have from the horse's mouth what we need to do, and then we can put an accurate cost on it and we can make a decision on whether it's feasible to proceed with. So that's just an option that we could get going with. Require a little bit of money up front for engineering fees, but it could provide more clarity on it. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then Karen, you mentioned agenda items for rain ready. I think I mentioned it before, but I think maybe our stormwater ordinance and how we build that up really have to be on there.
And you sent that to Harriet, didn't you?
Yeah, I believe I sent that to the group. So given the MWRD new ordinance and trying to make sure that's properly integrated into village code and making sure that we have the requirements that we feel fit the community, I think that's worth looking at. And I don't know, I guess something I would see, I don't know if the committee's up to it, but can the kids committee put together a recommendation that could be passed on to the board for approval? It would take some time, obviously. It's an exhaustive task to go through that entire ordinance and review it, both of them, and make sure we're doing what we need to do. But perhaps that's the way to go, given that we have these people volunteering to help try and reduce flooding impacts in the village. So if we're talking agenda items, I figured I'd bring it up again. And that's it. Looking forward to the meeting, of course, next week. So thank you.
Jeff, when you're talking about the stormwater management, that's what you're just saying with there, that you're going to try to improve it?
Well, you have what the village has in place as far as stormwater development requirements, and then now you have MWRD's new requirements. And MWRD supersedes the village.
Yes.
But technically, if the village requirement is more stringent than MWRD, they got to meet the village. So the MWRD is not specifically referenced, I don't think, in the code, because it was just passed recently. But I don't think you blindly accept their code, because there may be stuff in there that's not quite strong enough for what we need. So I think a quick, very detailed look at it and trying to see if we simply adopt MWRD, but then we add on to it, saying we need to do actually this a little bit more stormwater retention for this specific application. And I think it just needs to be looked at, given our situations, to make sure that whatever is updated, it meets what we actually want. So
I'm just trying to remember, the stormwater management part of the CRS?
Yes, you would get, depending on how aggressive you are with your requirements for developers, you would get additional points based on your stormwater requirements.
So the timing of this review would be?
Well,
I certainly support what you're doing. I'm just saying I don't want to hold up CRS.
Oh, no, I think you proceed with what you have, and then, I mean, CRS, you get audited every year, I believe. If
Yes.
you update the status.
Right.
So what could be done is perhaps in the future you get more points, that's all.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's all.
Right. I think the way CRS works is they've got this quick checklist. And if you provide them all the documents in the quick checklist, you start off with 500 points. So that gets you a rating of 9. As Jeff mentioned, every year you get re-audited. So every year we're going to have a steering committee that will meet once or twice a year to continue to upgrade and improve the documentation we have. And as that occurs, you get more and more points. And the smaller your community rating system is, the larger the discount is on your insurance rates. And I don't know how it affects any FEMA disaster grant money, but it will have a drastic effect on the discount that the village residents can get on their insurance.
It improves your odds. All the people that we've met at all the meetings who asked us how we could be unable to get funds after all these years, that was the first question. Where are you in standing with the community rating system? They all said that that was critical. You get denied if you're not in good standings. And that was very abundantly clear at the hazard mitigation meetings last summer before last.
Anything else?
No, that was okay. Thank you.
Chief Outlander?
Just one thing. Over the past week or so, when the weather was nicer, we're getting some calls regarding open burning or recreational fires. We do have an ordinance in effect. We actually revised it. We do allow it. We do not allow burning leaves, landscape waste, garbage, stuff like that. If anybody has any questions on the ordinance, they can call the fire department. But we've had a number of complaints about people burning garbage and stuff in their backyards. So if you have any issues, just call us. We'll come out and investigate. The police will take it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Chief Kaufman?
Yes, a few things. Burglaries we've been having in the Jolly Homes area is to the extreme. We've been working diligently with undercovers and stuff on that, but the key to all this is locking car doors, because every single one of them, doors have been unlocked. We've also had some burglaries going on in the vacant homes where they're taking the copper and the water heaters and things like that. We arrested one subject last week. We arrested another one today. Will this stop it? Probably not. So if somebody sees something, please call us, let us know. You know, it's just somebody going there, even if it looks like a contract or something, we'll go and check them out. Just another thing, I'd just like to say thanks for everybody showing up today for the Make-A-Wish Foundation today. We noticed the subject in town, Albert Davis, and went really nice for him today. It's a great project, and everybody did well.
Not a subject.
I'm used to writing police reports.
He's a 12-year-old child. You're not apprehending anybody.
See, I'm so used to writing a report, I didn't even catch it.
Remember
But thank you for everyone that showed up.
They got the bad guy. Remember when they came back? They got the bad guy today.
Thank you.
So it was wonderful. Everything turned out great. Everybody's probably noticed it on the marquee, but thanks to the fire department and my police officers and the board of the town. That's all I have.
Superintendent Sperry?
Just a couple of things. Branch pickup started this week. It was in the northeast section. Next week, we'll continue on in the southeast section. And we're in the process of tree removals and stump removals and all that stuff. So just ask for people to be patient. There's a lot of trees that have been taken down and still have to be taken down because of storms. So we're a little behind on that, but we're working diligently at it. That's it.
Can we just thank you? You weren't here last week. Thanks for cleaning up our project.
Oh, thank you for
That was
cleaning up all that.
a lot of work. Thank you.
I'll pass it on to the guys.
Tell them there's more coming.
I told them that already.
All right, we're going to move on to the president's business. Board members, I'd be looking, basically, we're not looking to really approve the RDA again tonight because that would be the sale of the property and everything. I'm basically just trying to make sure that the documentation we'd sent you is okay and we're moving forward now with drive time. They'll review it and let us know. I just wanted to know if there were any last changes. Thought we had everything.
I think I've read it so many times, and I believe this part, I'm going to the attorney, Exhibit A, the land description carves out the location for the water tower. Correct?
Correct.
So there is accommodation in there. We're not selling them a piece of property that the water tower would be located at.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Koza was kind enough to send me all the documentation showing me the legal descriptions of the land that was set for the water tower. So we've accepted the land that the water tower is supposed to sit on from the sale, and then we've acquired easement rights to where we believe the piping will have to run to connect it.
And I had given you when Jeff was kind of through the superimposing the site on the land, and that diagram as well. I guess as I read this like 5 times, and it's just way too much legalese in here. But in here, is there anything, I guess the only concern that I had, is there anything in here where we approve, where the board approves the way that the building looks, like the facade?
The site plan? Yeah, they're supposed to submit a site plan for.
Not a site plan, but I guess can we approve the construction materials? I just want to make sure we have a quality building that goes up, and that's included.
They're not putting up new buildings, they're talking about just renovating.
They're gonna renovate what's there.
Right, renovate, but do the facade and make sure that we have approved materials. I sat in on a meeting where Amy Conley from Tinley Park, who's their planner, and when they work on a development or redevelopment, they're very specific, and I just don't want to sell ourselves short on the way the building looks, because I know they're going to have to do some, I'm sure, facade improvements.
Karen, wasn't there some requirement in when the TIF district was created on Cicero? Wasn't there some requirements that were part of the TIF district?
I think you're
certain
referring to the
landscaping had to be
streetscape
done,
plan,
the
and
streetscape
I did forward it to the attorney,
Okay.
and he was kind enough, I think the sidewalks and all of that's in here. And
That's what I took from the streetscape
Escape plan, yeah, and the grates for the trees,
Mhm.
yeah, so he
But
did,
that, the TIF district or whatever, that didn't include any kind of requirements for what the buildings were gonna look like or materials?
no, the
used or
street,
anything?
that was just the
No.
No,
streetscape. So
And-
I guess I'm just concerned that I wanna make sure that whatever they put up,
I can include something that requires them to submit a design of the building for approval if that's what you want.
that's, I think, what I want. If the board would agree, how they want this building to look.
And are they aware that the streetscape that they do is TIF reimbursable? I mean, that's something they should probably know. It's not a huge deal what the streetscape has them do. It's just mostly the sidewalks and some trees, but.
Is this mostly on Cicero, the streetscape?
The streetscape plan, it's
The Cicero
online,
corridor.
it's only for the Cicero corridor.
That easement we need for the water main is the replacement of the water main from 145th to 147th, with a 10-foot easement.
You knew about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff was just speaking about, make sure we get the water main in before they do all this landscaping, streetscaping, so they don't replace it.
Yeah, that wouldn't, we'd
That
dig
would
up
be
a
a
new
good idea.
sidewalk and trees and tree grates, and that wouldn't be too great, yeah.
There'll be no water main.
Okay, so I think, is that,
I understand what you're saying.
okay, thank you.
Okay. I will be looking for the approval of the Midlothian Country Club fireworks on July 3rd, 2015. I sent you the documentation.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Maskell,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
Yesterday you received, or 2 days ago, you received the information from Joe Sperry and myself about the new aero board. We need one because our old one got wrecked by a motor vehicle. And with his recommendation, because of the inclement weather that we usually have this time of year, he really needs to have that safety for the guys. I believe the price of the gear was $4,835.
$45.30.
$45.30, okay. And that was the low bid he had received, or low quote he had received.
Are we pursuing any action against the person?
Well, that's what I recommend. They don't have any insurance, of course. We're gonna
Really?
legally go after them, try to make restitution.
What can we go after? I guess that would be a question for the attorney.
Sometimes in criminal court that can be restitution, but depending on the amount, that's awfully high.
They won't do that in 6th District Court.
Yeah, that's really high.
Really doing around $1,000 now.
I guess my question would be, is there any way we can put a lien on, do they own property? Is there any way we could?
Well, they live in town,
Is there any way we could put a lien on the property for it?
I think you have to get a judgment in order to put the lien on property.
It is the question, I mean, it's still money.
Is
that
it
we-
worth pursuing if they own a home?
Pardon me?
Is judgment worth pursuing if they own a
That's
home?
my question.
Legal fees will be over $4,500.
Well, you're in small claims court, but yeah, you're gonna spend 1, 2, and you're not gonna get it back. So, and your filing fees, I think, 135. So even if I get it, yeah, you're probably gonna get half of it back.
Then maybe we should just shut off their water then.
They'll just start by sending the bill for it.
We can give you their address.
Well, yeah. We can go
We should also
protest in front of their house.
contact- We should also contact our insurer, because sometimes insurance policies have underinsured or non-insured coverage that we can get based on damage to our property, so maybe Connor and Gallagher cover the loss for us.
And then they can go back and try and recoup it.
Right, and then it becomes their obligation to try to subrogate against them. So it takes us out of the loop and saves you money.
I'll try to do that. I'll check on that. But that doesn't solve the problem.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
The last thing I have is the approval of pay increases for the Public Works Department due to promotions. This has been brought up before. Joe, I believe, sent you guys the information. I know I sent it to you as well. These are the two that are not tied to the union contract talks we're having currently. We meet again on the 16th with the union we brought some things we wanted, so we meet with the union again on the 16th. But Jerry and Joe asked this to be on the agenda for approval tonight.
I just have a couple of comments I'd like to make. First of all, I'd like to know if we plan on making this retroactive from the time that they were promoted.
I'm sorry, what, Jim?
I'd like to know if we plan on making this retroactive from the time they were promoted.
There, mine will only be from my university date, which is the 29th of March, so they already got it back.
But the other individual has been working at that position for
He was
close to
promoted twice since March 29th, he was promoted, and then in August, when Al left, he was promoted again, and then was compensated.
I guess the point I'm getting at is, it's my knowledge that we've had past practice when we promoted somebody and we increased their salary, we did this from the time they were promoted. So I wanted to make the board aware that I also think that we should follow the same practice and do this for the individual that Superintendent Sperry was referring to. I don't know if there's any discussion that is needed on that.
Well, if I could just interject, I'm not even sure why this is on the agenda tonight, because, just for a couple reasons, and I know, and I know that they need their raises, we recognize that. But at the last Finance Committee meeting, it was decided that all of the individuals that need salary adjustments were gonna be considered together. And that was gonna, we were looking at police command staff, I think we had construction, rank and fire, and public works. We're aware of it. We know they've been waiting, and I think that people that have stepped up, yes, they deserve to be paid retroactively. But the board also approved a compensation plan on March 11th, which specifically outlines the steps that got to be approved by the Finance Committee and then brought to the board. So I think this is one of the topics that we are planning, and Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, to discuss at next week's Finance Committee meeting.
And I am aware of that. I basically wanted to just reiterate the fact that we need to move on this. But for that reason, I am suggesting we do table this until the next Finance Committee meeting so it can get done. But I just want to emphasize the importance of what we need to do, because it's been over a year, and I think that's shame on us.
And we also wanted to make sure we had some budget reports, so that we make sure we have the money to do this. We gotta be able to make payroll, and Finance Committee hasn't met in a month, and so I know there's urgency for the meeting next week on many levels.
So like I said, I'd like to table it till
Table it.
after the finance committee.
One more comment, I mean, we can't disregard the fact, it appears that the board has disregarded the fact that the Public Works Department has cut their spending over $300,000. The Police Department has cut their spending over $100,000. I mean, their adjustment's only gonna cost the village $20,000 a year. So I guess what I'm bringing up is we need to have a meeting, finance meeting sooner than later and get this done and move forward, so. That's all.
Okay, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Chiboni.
Aye.
And then Mike, do you have anything for the village?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, with that being said, with nothing else to report for the board this evening, at 8:06, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.